Hey, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harding. Glad to be back with an incredible episode. Happy Thursday, May 7th. Can't believe it. May is just flying by already. It's already the 7th day of May. And we got one more day before the WNBA regular season 2026, the 30th epic season. Looking forward to this. Starts tomorrow, Friday, and so many games, and then we're gonna hit the ground running. So I got a great guest coming up. Looking forward to having her on. We've been trying to do this over the last I don't know how many months, but we're here. It's so excited, except the season started, and I just got an incredible guest waiting in the wings. So, but before I bring her on, hit my music. Let's get it. All right. Once again, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harding. Again, happy May 7th. It is, like I said, Thursday, and like I said, the WNBA season will begin tomorrow. Very, very excited. We just completed our Zoom meetings with the media and the players and coaches. So I was just on there. So check that out on all the platforms and everything. So you can find a lot of clips and things like that as well. But before I bring my guest, you can follow the show on all the podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. We're on the BS3 Network, BS3TVLive.com, BS3 Network, Roku channel, iHeartRadio, wherever you consume podcasts. We're there. And except BS3 Network is the network and the channel. You can find all the previous episodes of the Real Deal, and you can follow me on all the social media platforms, whether it's TikTok, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at Get the Real Deal, all those platforms. So follow me on all those as well. So all right, let me bring in my guest. I'm very excited to have my next guest here. We connected on one of the WNBA Zoom meetings, with the media and things like that. And like I said, we reached out to each other, and we've been chatting on Rivaled and WNBA. We seem like we've seen each other every day this week as well, and we set this up. So I'm very, very excited. So let me bring her on. Sofi Dumont. She is the editor-in-chief of the Ballers magazine. She does sports marketing, athlete management, CEO of Dumont Marketing Design. She does a little bit of everything. So, but the Ballers magazine editor-in-chief is her main title. So, Sofi, welcome to the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. Like I said, we've been trying to set this up for a while, and a lot of different things happening. Like I said, you're busy doing, you're editor in chief, you're CEO, and all these things. So it's only right that we were going to do this. So I'm glad that we got a chance to do this. So the time is right with the W starting as well, and you do a lot with WNBA and things like that. So really appreciate the time. Appreciate you coming on.
No, looking forward to it. Like you mentioned, we've been seeing each other throughout this week.
Yeah.
And a lot of press conferences. So excited to dive a little bit more into all things WNBA and excited to chat with you.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have you on for sure. And we already got a couple comments. You got any questions for Sofi? The chat is open as well. We got Nathan. He says, "What's up?" And he's been part of all these as well. He said, "How are you, Sofi?" So he's Nathan Sports
Good,
Rush.
Nathan. How are you?
Yeah. WNBA season is almost here. We're very excited and everything too. And he was part of the Zoom meetings, he says. So yeah, it's anytime, man. Like if we share a lot of different things, and we just want the coverage for the W as well as much as we can, the platforms that we have. And so we're very excited to him in the chat as well. So yeah, thanks again, Sofi. Let's start here. I always ask my first time guest this question always. Who is Sofi Dumont, and how did you get into sports, and just give a little bit of background of yourself?
Yeah, Sofi, that's a great question. Who is Sofi Dumont? Well, I grew up in Chicago, played basketball, played a lot of sports growing up. I played basketball, ran track and field, cross country. And as you know, Chicago is really big on its sports culture.
Yes.
So,
Sure.
I was really, really passionate about sports, the Chicago Bulls. I mean, growing up, the Bulls were really the dynasty and the sport in the city when it came to basketball. And then when I stopped playing basketball, I really started learning about the game itself, watching highlight tapes, learning more about the players themselves. And that really opened the door to media, journalism, just athletes off the court. So, as I went to college, as I graduated college, I just really dove into the sports media space and wanted to tell stories that way. But like you mentioned, sports marketing was something that I really was passionate about. And when I got to college, I studied international business and marketing. So I dove more into the marketing side, and then I tied it into sports. Okay. So that's just a little bit about my background in sports, from an athlete growing up to then diving into the sports media landscape.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I always had, like I said, I always asked that question to my first time guests just to see what the journey was like in the beginning and where you are today as well. So a couple of things I wanted to ask you. You said Chicago Bulls. It's funny because I grew up in upstate New York, where I've been a big Bulls fan and still is to this day. And somewhere in upstate New York, people are fans of a lot of different teams. There's not one. And I was, Michael Jordan fan from back then, and Scottie Pippen and them. And so I seen all those championships. But you said you growing up in Chicago, you got to see firsthand of that dynasty. Now the Bulls haven't been good in years. It's been a long time, and everything. Yeah. I think since with the Derrick Rose years, and now it's been a pain to watch now with the
those are my years. D Rose when Derrick was in Chicago, Jimmy Butler, Bobby Portis. That was the era when I was growing up. Yeah.
Okay. So that era, the D Rose, where they were so close, injuries and things like that. The Joakim Noahs, Luol Dengs, those, those years when they had Boozer and Taj Gibson and everything too.
Kurt Heinrich, all of them.
Yeah. Kurt Heinrich. Oh man, Captain Kurt Heinrich and everything too. So seeing that, as you said, not just the Bulls, but the Blackhawks, and now are you a White Sox or Cubs, or which?
I have to go with the Cubs because I grew up in the north side of the city. So
so you're on the north. Okay, so you're north side. Okay, so you're a Cubs fan. So like you said, big landscape in Chicago with sports growing up there. Talk about that landscape of like how much with all four major sports there. Talk about that growing up, what that was all about, and just seeing the city, seeing some championships and things like that too.
Yeah, I think sports is in the bloodline of Chicago. It's part of our culture. Going to sports games, whether that's at the high school level, at the elementary school level, all the way to the pros. I think there's really a really awesome community that you can find, whether it's like friendships, coaches that you get to connect with along the way. And that was kind of how I was able to dive into all of these different spaces outside of playing the game itself. When I first sort of got experience in sports outside of the court was with the Chicago Sky. When they were playing, I believe it was in Allstate Arena. They weren't in Wintrust. They weren't in the city yet. They were outside of the city. So just getting a chance to connect with athletes and teams in the city that really embody the culture of, Chicago loves sports. There's a lot of Chicago homegrown talent that has grown up in the city playing, has also given back to the city and really used sports as a way to navigate life and the adversity that maybe they face on a day-to-day basis, growing up in Chicago. So sports, I think it's a really big culture piece of the city itself. And growing up, it was a way for me and my friends to find community, to rep the city, to really be involved and be proud to be from Chicago too.
Oh my God, I'm sure you are definitely proud to be, from Chicago, and just just embodying that the sports culture in itself. It's one of the biggest sports cities, just in America in general. We talk about some of the cities. Like I live in Philly now. Over the last, it's been a while now. So 13 years, 14 years now I've been here in Philadelphia, and it's such a big sports city, sports town. And you said you just see it. And when the teams are doing well, as you said, it's just great to represent that, just to see,
Yeah, with the Bears this year, for instance.
And the Bears, yeah.
That was electric for the city. You could feel it like when everything was happening this season, like the whole city was blue and orange, the skyline was rooting for the Bears. So little things like that I think really bring the city together through sports.
For sure. Like you said, the Bears had a tremendous season, and they did beat my Eagles in the regular season. And came to Philly and tore us up. That on Black Friday, and it was. I mean, we'll talk. That's for another time and everything too. But no, it was good to see the Bears relevant again, and just to see. You said the city itself being in that blue and orange. It's been a while, and for that, the city was electric again. It just goes back to show when the teams are doing well. Even now here in Philly, it's the same thing. It's like the Flyers and the Sixers, even though they're down in the series now, but they're in the playoffs, second round on both series, and they're doing, just the city itself just comes together when it comes to that. When the Eagles winning and they win a Super Bowl, I've seen both. Just being part of that was just electric. It was something that never is. Being part of that, being at the parade, seeing that, people coming together. Philly gets a little crazy, but when it comes to that, but it's the fans get a little over the top. But I mean, that's what he said. It represents what the city is, and it's good. It's really good to see.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, it takes me back to when the Cubs won. I think it was 2016, I believe, when they won. It happened so long ago, that the last time that they won, that the city exploded as well. It was just an awesome experience to see all walks of life, people that have been since they were kids and now they're parents, they were able to see that themselves, and then the new generation of fans. So it's also great to see.
Yeah, that fandom of what we've witnessed and seen, like I said, seeing championships, just seeing the city buzzing. It's exciting, definitely exciting to see. I want to circle back to your sports marketing background and everything. So dive a little bit more into that, how that all came about, and as you said, and then you transitioned with that sports marketing and into journalism.
Yeah. So in college, I studied international business and marketing.
Yeah.
I've always been really passionate about, foreign languages. I speak English, Spanish, and Chinese Mandarin. So I was really always curious about culture and connecting with people from, different walks of life, different cultures. And then marketing, I was always creative and I loved business. So I was like, what's the best career that I can explore and dive in that brings that creative side with the business, the economics, accounting, all of those business factors into it. And that's how I found marketing. And when I was in college, I really got into, telling stories of athletes. So I went to Marquette University. And as you may know, Marquette is really big on its basketball culture, really big sports school. But basketball, I mean, you've had legends like D. Wade, Jimmy Butler, the list goes on, Doc Rivers when he played there. So just getting an opportunity to attend the games, I was like, I love basketball. Yeah. I love business and marketing. And I really, really wanted to sort of share the stories of the athletes that were playing at Marquette from a different perspective. So off the court, who are they as people? What do they like to do beyond the game? What are their stories? And during that time, when I was in college, I got to work with the men's basketball team as their social media manager. So I was, taking photos of their game day coverage, editing videos of their game day recaps, talking to the players on the team and getting to know them beyond the game. And that was kind of how I mixed, sports with my social media and business side of things. And then throughout the summer, I got internships back home in Chicago. So I interned for the Chicago Sky. I believe my first internship was in 2017 as a game ops intern. So I worked game day operations. It had nothing to do with, journalism or marketing necessarily, but I loved it, seeing how the game was run, getting fans in on the action, connecting them with athletes, all of that was incredible. And then from there, I grew into the social media landscape and then really pursued this journalism and storytelling side that I'm in now with the Ballers magazine.
Yes, and which I love that. And you're right. You said the storytelling, and which is very important when it comes to sports. Just telling it from a side of beyond the statistics and things like that, and just of the time that we've connected over the year. And so, as you said, now the Balls magazine. So transition to that. You said you're doing the marketing side of it and the social media, and now you transition and with the Balls magazine. Talk about how that launching Balls magazine, how you got involved with being part of the Ballers magazine.
Yeah, so the Ballers magazine was launched in 2020, and our mission was to tell stories of incredible people in sports, whether they're athletes, business professionals, up and coming rising talent, and really highlight their journeys in the space, giving fans this behind the scenes look into their journeys and their stories, and really use that opportunity to inspire the next generation. At the time, we felt that a lot of sometimes from the outside looking in, you feel like the only way to remain involved in sports is if you play the game, right? If you're on the court, if you're either a player or maybe a coach. But there are a lot of different roles within the sports industry that you can get involved in. You can be a PR manager, a trainer, a player development coach, a journalist, a stylist, a creative director. There's so many different avenues that you can go into. And for us at Ballers, was really a focus to highlight these different journeys for people to get to know the different paths of people across sports. And then from an athlete standpoint, give athletes the opportunity to share their stories firsthand, right? Like you mentioned, go beyond the stat sheet. Yes, maybe I'm the best defensive player, or maybe I score doubles every game, or maybe I'm a bench player coming off during the game. But this is my story and this is my journey. And you, maybe as a reader or a fan, can connect to me in that way. And even beyond the court, I'm passionate about these things. And maybe we have these things in common, where we can connect and relate to that. So it was really about giving athletes a platform to let us tell their stories and let us get to know them, maybe from a different, standpoint that extends far beyond the game. So that's a little bit about how Ballers came about. We started as a digital magazine and have grown since then into a physical, a magazine as well, a digital platform where we bring coverage across sports. So it's been a great journey thus far.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of journalism and media in general is, the digital side of it. And as you said, you transition right into that from the marketing background, just sports marketing, right into. But you said you could interconnect all of that together from your background: sports marketing, journalism, social media, digital media, things like that. And you're celebrating 6 years of the Ballers magazine. So congratulations. You said you launched in 2020, which you said we already know what 2020 was with the pandemic and things like that. So from there, when you did launch it from 2020 into what it is today, talk about those I wouldn't say, like you say, trials and things like that, but you said hard to, you said, okay, I'm gonna start this. Yes, during the pandemic, and where it is today, we're after the pandemic. Talk about a little bit of that journey when you did launch it, and then you said celebrating 6 years. What has been the most significant shift you witnessed in how women's athletes are covered since you started?
Yeah, so when we first started in 2020, we were solely a digital magazine platform. And we really, with 2020, you remember the WNBA bubble, all of the sporting events were canceled. So we thought it was a great time for fans to still connect and learn about their favorite teams, athletes, or sports professionals digitally. You might not be able to go to a game to watch your favorite player, but hey, you can check out this digital edition where your favorite player is giving an exclusive interview about their story. And you can get to know them that way. And then from there, we grew into interviewing coaches, trainers, college athletes, business professionals, and transitioned into publishing our own book. So that was, something I believe we released around 2022, if I'm not mistaken. We published 3 books, just, highlighting all of the incredible features that we had throughout our magazine, and also launched, physical copies. So a lot of the readers that, were consuming our digital magazines and we're like, I love it, but I want a physical copy. There's something timeless about, having a physical copy and having this, to keep. So then, we heard it and we worked on a physical edition that's, now available for readers and fans alike worldwide, and also dived more into the digital landscape, game day coverage, interviews digitally. So I think for us, the main thing that we've kept is always growing and evolving and keeping our mission, at the core of it, which is to highlight, the stories authentically of all of these incredible athletes and sports professionals in the industry. And then the second question about the growth of the narrative of women, in the sports space, I think it's great that more and more we get to learn about these incredible athletes as human beings. What are they passionate about outside of the court, their business ventures, their philanthropic, projects that they have. I think that's something really, really cool that I've been able to be a part of and get the opportunity to learn about when interviewing these athletes and featuring them in Ballers. Is to learn about all of the different projects that they have off the court, whether it's fashion, basketball camps, real estate, investing, avenues that maybe from the outside looking in, you wouldn't necessarily, expect or think about, but it's awesome to be able to bring our readers in that way and get them to see the different projects that all of these incredible people are embarking on.
Yeah, for sure. It's we got a couple questions in the chat here, so I'm going to try to get to them. Nita says, "Congrats on 6 years with the Ballers Magazine." Yeah, for sure. Appreciate it. He said your story is amazing. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. And he had, and this is one of my questions, so I might as well get right to it. It says your favorite moment in your career so far. So yeah, that was one of my questions. Most rewarding or favorite, or your biggest moment. You can have one, two, however you wanted to do it. But yeah, one of your favorite moments, or a couple moments in your career.
That's a great question, because throughout the journey, I think I've had multiple surreal and favorite moments that, almost serve like, okay, we're on the right track. We're doing great things. So I can give you a couple. I think one, going off to our 6-year anniversary. This year we featured, throughout these past 6 years, we featured over 364, sports professionals.
Wow.
And I think, to me, that's special because that's 364 different people, different stories.
Yeah.
But we all share this common passion for sports. One way or another, we all love the same thing, which is like sports, the industry, what it's all about. So I think just seeing all of the different paths that people have taken, and yet we're all in the same space, has been like super rewarding. To see. I would say that's one. And also number two, I think, will be how global, Ballers is and has become. When we started, we featured, people in the States, athletes in the States, and more we had fans from around the world, athletes from around the world that wanted to share their stories. So it's always great when we get those messages. I'm tuning in from Germany, or I'm in China, or I'm in Japan, I'm in Canada, I'm in South America. And they reach out to thank you for bringing that story all the way to them, because they might not get the opportunity to attend a game or connect with this athlete or connect with this business professional or even learn about a career path. So I think when you get those messages along the way, or you see people that might buy your magazine from Australia, it's like, wow, there's somebody, in Australia that has this and can share with their friends, can read it themselves. So I think those have been like two of the favorite highlight or rewarding moments so far.
and you're going to continue to keep, because your career continues to blossom, continues to grow and things like that. So I'm sure there's more, and there's going to be more beyond that as well. But as you said, the reach of where that can go beyond, you just never know where your reach can go. You said overseas, to people are listening, people are paying attention. You said you have the YouTube channel as well, where I see all the interviews you guys have done throughout, you said the press conferences and things like that. But you said to have over 300 sports professionals over that, different ones, that's huge, just to be able to say, hey, I talked with, I interviewed some people want to be on the cover, and that would be my other question too about the cover, the process of that. But there's one more question here in the chat. He said, who are some of your mentors, either growing up? Who were some of your mentors?
Well, in terms of sports, I think I've had people that have opened doors for me throughout the way, and maybe have not necessarily have a title, a mentor, directly that check in, but I think they've all opened the opportunity for me. I mean, one of them, her name is Sam. She used to, work. I believe she used to or still works for the Chicago Sky. She was the person that gave me my first, internship in the WNBA and opportunity in game operations. When I was in college, my boss, she was the director of game ops for the men's basketball team. And she gave me that opportunity to be able to do social media and sort of let my creative ideas run wild when it came to creating content and highlighting athletes, because back then it wasn't as popular to necessarily learn about athletes beyond the game. It was more stat based and who are they as a performer on the court. So to have people along the way that trust your vision and support you when you come up with these ideas that might not be popular at the time was great. So I've had people along the way that have, encouraged and opened doors. And I think just community, connecting with different sports professionals, even if you don't speak every day or every week, to be able to see them grow. And then, check in, whether it's at press conferences or events here and there. It's always great to connect and see that we're all contributing to the sports space, even if it's in different ways.
Yeah, for sure. Just like how we connected on a Zoom, and that's where this has been going. He said, yes, the pandemic. The one thing I always say about the pandemic is that it allowed, for us to connect on, like I said, on like social media. As bad as the pandemic was terrible, but as bad as it was, it allowed us to be able to, we were home and we were able to connect through social media, through Zoom, through this type of way to do interviews and things like that. So that's something that came out, something good that actually came out of that, is networking this way, because you couldn't travel, you couldn't go anywhere, couldn't go to the events, couldn't go to games, things like that. So we had to kind of do it this way on a call and everything too. So this is where all these platforms came about, the Zooms, the Instagram lives, the Facebook lives, the StreamYards and things like that. But this is where we are, and we're still using these platforms to connect. And I think that's another way of connecting with people in the industry. Who would have thought this would be even possible?
Yeah, I was going to mention that, it pushed us almost to find creative ways to connect.
It did.
Think outside the box, and now you can connect with people around the world, whether they're in Europe or in the West Coast or East Coast. You can hop on a Zoom and still have that event come to life, or have that connection without necessarily having to travel or
be in person. I think this is great to be able to do this. And you said you had to elevate and you said be creative and change different ways. Like you said, when there were no sports, we had to be creative. I was still, it was interesting because I was still getting interviews and doing this, because I said I don't want to stop. We'll just figure out things. And that's, so we had to be creative and find these platforms and then to be able to I was still putting out episodes every other day because of that. Even though there was no sports, there was still some things to talk about. So we'll just say checking in with people, and people were excited, and just to have something to listen to. I mean, there was nothing going on, but not much going on. So I mean, there was I think UFC, there was golf came back. There was a few things. So I was just saying, hey, I'll dive into that. I mean, I loved UFC, and then I loved golf. So I was just diving more into that. And then the Bulls, the Michael Jordan launched the Last Dance. They launched that. Oh,
yes.
Yeah, that was something to talk about. Yes, that was something to talk about. So talked about that for weeks and weeks. So there was content to be made. So as you said, you had to be creative during that time as well. Wanted to ask you about the magazine cover. I know that's like a big thing. Anybody that does, with magazines, everybody say, well, who's on the cover, the magazine cover, who's this and that. Talk about the process of how you select who's, the magazine cover stories.
Yeah, no, great question. I think, like you mentioned, it's a mix of things. One of them, we definitely, for our covers, we want to feature athletes that have some experience in the professional space, because our mission is really to pour back into the youth, the up and coming professionals, and also shine light on their stories. So for us, it's great to see athletes that maybe have been a couple years in the league, maybe are veterans in the league now, and they can reflect back on their journey and their process, as an athlete on the court, but maybe some things that they have learned along the way. So that goes into our cover, selection process. Leagues, and timelines of different sports also go into the timeline of things. But I mean, throughout our covers, you can see athletes from soccer, flag football, the WNBA, the NBA, leagues, in Europe that have, been playing overseas. So we also like to be dynamic and creative in that way to one, give fans the opportunity to learn about athletes from around the world, and also keep that content refreshed in the sense of bring stories that are innovative, athletes that are doing great things both on and off the court, and pour back to our readers that way. I mean, a couple that come to mind that has been great to see. Tina Charles, we had the honor and the opportunity to feature her. Incredible, human being with incredible, story both on and off the court. Renee Montgomery, also, we featured her a while back when she was, in the W, and now she's the VP and co-owner of the Atlanta Dream. So, seeing those feature stories that we've done come to life, over the years, and also have fans see that growth has been great. And those are qualities that we look for when we select cover stories. We love inspiring journeys, and we also like to highlight both the athlete on and off the court.
I like that. I like that a lot. And you said, everyone, obviously, when you get the cover, that tells, okay, what type of, the story is going to be. And that leads into the magazine in itself. You see a nice cover on a magazine, that piques the interest, as you said. And the Tina Charles, I mean, just retiring and such an illustrious career now, as you said, you got a chance to highlight her and put her on the cover as a cover story. That was big. So said timing, and you said it goes into timing and things like that, but that's incredible of that process as well. All right, just got a couple more before I let you go. And I really enjoyed chatting with you and everything too. We got to talk about the W season a little bit. As you said, we've been a big part of the media coverage and seeing the launch of the 30th season and things like that coming up. Like I said, starts tomorrow. What are some of the things, just some of the general things that you're looking forward to in this upcoming season?
Yes. Well, number one, I'm excited for all the competitive play. Listen, the WNBA games and matchups, are incredible. I remember, the playoffs last season, they were close. It could
very
really
close.
have been, in anybody's game, and to see those matchups, I think is really exciting. So for sure, the competition on the court. I'm excited to see, with all the movement during free agency, just the culture that different teams build, the culture that, they create with the fans in the city. And beyond that, I think it's a great opportunity with the 30th season, in the league to also shine light on the history. So I'm excited for fans, new fans and current fans alike, to learn more about the history, revisit, some of those iconic moments over the years that the W has experienced. And now with the new wave, of young talent and vets, excited to just get to know them and all the storytelling opportunities there, to dive into their ventures on and off the court. I think a lot of these athletes are doing incredible things beyond the game, really getting into business ventures, giving back to the youth, pursuing opportunities outside of basketball that I think I'm excited to learn more about and connect, with more of them and support them in that way.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, like I said, there's so many storylines. I mean, individual storylines, team storylines. You said player movement. That you said will the Aces, can they win again? That's another storyline that they're heading into. There's so much. The Liberty trying to get back to the championship. And when we talked to them yesterday, they said one word. They said championship. That's what they want to be known as in October. Champions. So you have that, and I mean, there's so many. They said the young teams, the Toronto getting a team with the Toronto Temple. Just
exactly the league expanding. The first. Canada's first WNBA team, and the game is going more and more global too, which is awesome to see. Fans tuning in from around the world. So excited about that as well.
There's so much. Awesome. There's going to be an awesome season. And then you said the TV deal. I mean, they just got the CBA deal done, and then you got the games are on so many networks now. From you got NBC, Peacock, USA, already CBS and Ion and ESPN, ABC. Like there's so many, Amazon Prime. Like there's so many outlets. I know people complain like, I can't find the games, and there's too many and things like that. Before there wasn't enough coverage, there wasn't enough on networks, and now they're saying it's too many and everything too. Yes, I get it from a perspective of you have to get all these platforms and all these streaming sites to get it, but you don't have to have, if you don't want to pay for all of them, don't pay for all of them. Just, it's great to see that they're on these different streaming sites. There's just the growth of the league and the investment in the league that these streaming networks and platforms are, given a chance for us to watch. So there's so many. You got League Pass also. There's so many different avenues that you can watch games now. So there's no excuse for people to say I can't find a game. No, there's plenty each and every day now.
And even on social media, a lot of
social media
teams are investing more and more into their content. And highlighting the players' personalities and just the culture of the team. So. I'm excited for all of the game day content, all the behind the scenes content that we'll see throughout the season. And I think that will give fans another opportunity to get to know, teams and athletes behind the scenes.
Yeah, the engagement is definitely going to be on a high for sure. It's going to be. I guess we're going to have to try to keep up with a lot of different things, and then on top of that, we get the links to be able to interview players or just to see post game, pre game, and those things too. So I mean, we're blessed to have those opportunities for sure. All right, just got two more. If I let you go, I want to ask you. I thought this question when I came up with it, I thought was interesting. I wanted to get you. If you could create a Baller's Life mentorship program, what is the first piece of advice you would give a young person looking to work in sports marketing and journalism?
Yes, I love that question. I think the very first thing I would say is know your why. It doesn't matter what you get into, whether it's sports marketing and journalism. I think really being rooted in your why you're doing what you're doing is really key. Whether you have, for instance, in journalism, whether you have one person that reads your blog, or maybe at the beginning, nobody reads it. You only got that opportunity to get that interview and craft it yourself. Know your why and the reason why you're doing this, because I think that is going to fuel you throughout the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows, the ever-growing landscape of things in sports and journalism. For us at Ballers, for instance, it's really the mission to highlight these stories. So we're always rooted in that and doing things and pursuing ventures that align with that. So I would say find your why And hopefully your why is not necessarily views and clicks. It's something outside of a little bit deeper than that. So I think that would be my first piece of advice. And then if I can add a special one, it's just enjoy it. I think have fun. Don't box yourself into a particular way of doing journalism or doing marketing. You can mix and match as much as you want. So think outside the box. Maybe you can tell stories through video, through short clips, through a newsletter, through a blog post. There's so many ways to sort of get yourself involved across all of these different professions in sports. So I would think don't corner yourself or box yourself in, and you always have the opportunity to grow and pivot and change. So you might start in sports marketing and then you want to go into sports, management, or you might love journalism and then you want to go back to business. So I think being flexible and open-minded is key as well.
Yeah, definitely. You're right. I think you said have fun during the journey too, as you said, because we get stuck into what we're doing. We're so super laser focused on the task, but it's supposed to be fun too, because sports is fun. Sports is fun. It's not supposed to be as serious as some make it. It's like, no, we love to do this. We love to, as you said, if you go out there, put yourself out there, don't be afraid. Just do it. If you're into, like you said, sports management, or just do it. Just, find you talked about mentorship. Find that person that can help you along the journey. There's so many different avenues now that you're able to research and do the research and just do it as well, and have fun on that journey. And when you're doing something that you're passionate about.
Yeah, definitely. And along with that, be open to all of the different content opportunities or coverage opportunities. Oftentimes maybe a lot of people want to get, the pros or, quote unquote, the stars, but I think everybody's a star in their own right. And you might have, highlight high school athletes, professionals in your own city, in your own town that you think are doing great things, and build community in different ways. Because I think there's a lot of incredible people across sports that have incredible stories that different people will connect with them differently along the way as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you said can't always get the stars, but I think I like that we're all stars in our own way, and everyone has a story. So if that human interest is very key, because you could actually have a platform to have people share their story as well. You find interesting and fascinating. The human interest is key, and I know that at Ballers Magazine, that's what it's all about, and that's the mission, is to share those human interest stories, which I really enjoy. All right, last one. Where would you like to see the Ballers Magazine's growth in the next couple of years?
Ooh, good question. So we also say this, sky's the limit. Keep balling. So for us, sky's the limit.
I like that.
I think for Ballers, there is really no ceiling. I think when we're grounded by this mission of really just sharing stories from all walks of life and highlighting people across sports, we see all of these different avenues that we can grow into. And I think in 3 to 5 years, we would love to see Ballers highlighting even more people, connecting with even more communities globally. Like I mentioned, we have readers all around the world. So connecting with them, whether that's in Asia, Europe, Australia, North or South America, Africa, really tap into these different communities and connect with the talent that's there. Maybe some events. We never know. More underground coverage, and a couple of projects on the way that are exciting. But just for us, it's looking forward to sharing more stories and growing. So sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. Sky is the limit. I love it. I love that. And like you said, it's just I love seeing, like you said, the Ballers Magazine and what, like I said, its mission and what it's doing. Again, beyond the stat sheet, just telling the human interest again of the athletes, of the sports professionals, and business and culture and media, things like that. So keep up what you're doing. Really, very excited to see continued growth again with the YouTube channel, the interviews, the cover stories, and all that. So I really appreciate your time here. But I do have one more question. Beyond the Bars magazine, what else does Sofi like to do outside of being editor in chief? I know you're locked into that because that's what you do. But other things other interests that you like to do besides being in front of the Zoom meetings and interviewing and things like that. But what else does Sofi Dumont like to do?
Well, sports, I love sports. And it's crazy because sometimes when you're being in the field, when you're covering games, it's different because you look at it from a different perspective. But I love, attending sporting events, actually watching games as a fan, from time to time.
Hard to do sometimes, but yes.
Right. I think once you're in this space, sometimes it's hard because you always look at it through like a different lens. But sports, I really enjoy just traveling, learning about different cultures, connecting with people, fashion, sports, athlete branding and sports management is something that I'm also really passionate about. So, connecting with athletes and companies and brands that way. So, photography, I also did a lot of sports photography and continue to do some from time to time. So capturing stories behind the lens. And I think overall, just exploring different avenues. If I have an interest in fashion, diving into that. If I have an interest in, traveling and culture and foreign languages, diving into that. Music, connecting, just connecting and exploring all of these different passions outside of sports is something that I enjoy doing when I'm, not answering emails or not planning.
Yes, you gotta have that time. Yeah, it's gotta have that time. Beyond that, as just for your own sanity for one, but your own mental and things like that too.
And I think it's refreshing too. Like it brings a different perspective when you do come back to the content. Sometimes you need to unplug and do something that has nothing to do with what you do on a day-to-day basis. So when you come back, you have new ideas and a different, perspective too.
Yep. I like that too. Yeah. Somebody got to step back from it and, just be around people that just have a family or, friends and things like that. Just to, you said, to unplug, unwind. And then when you come back, you're like, okay, now I'm refreshed and everything too. Just take that little bit of time and then say, okay, boom, here we go. Now I'm back this week and working on whatever project you have to do. Yeah, I agree. 100%. I'm with you on that. We understand each other on that front when it comes to that too. And when you're not editing and doing all these things, you're able to come back and have a refresh mind as well. So, but Sofi, thank you again. I can't thank you enough for doing this. Again, much success and blessings moving forward with everything, the Bars magazine. But let everyone know they can follow you on social, want to reach out to you and subscribe to the Bars magazine. Please do that. Subscribe, like, all those things, share, all those things.
Yeah. So first and foremost, thank you, Courtney, for having us. I really enjoyed our conversation. It was great, speaking with you here with the Real Deal podcast. And I mean, for readers and fans, connect with us at our Ballers Magazine platform. We're at the Ballers Magazine on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, a social media platform that's out there, you name it. And then for my personal platform, at Sofi Dumont, feel free to connect, reach out, if you would like to be featured, if you would like to see somebody get featured, we always love to hear from you guys and thank you for supporting us along the way and looking forward to building our community further, continuing to connect with more, sports professionals and athletes alike and just shine light on these stories.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you again. Like I said, I'm so glad we connected. Just on a Zoom call. And, it is a Zoom meeting with the W and Unrivaled, and here we are. A couple years later. So, but I appreciate it. Looking forward to Look forward to more collaborations in the future with you, and thank you again, and enjoy the W season. And
yes.
we'll I'm sure we'll be seeing each other at a Zoom meeting near you as well very soon, probably in the next few weeks. I'm sure we'll
next few weeks or days
on a call. In a few days we'll be on a call for sure. But I appreciate the time again. Thank you again, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thank you so much, Courtney. Have a great rest of your day. Talk soon.
You too. Yep, talk soon. Have a good one.